Alright guys, so now let's get into kind of Photoshop and architecture specific projects. So go ahead and download the folder called Architecture Elevation. There should be a link for you on Canvas. And let's work on elevation number 1. What I did here is I'm just going to open up Photoshop. What I did here was I've already created a PDF elevation from Revit or AutoCAD. So basically in our office we were working on a project, we drew everything out, and then we would print it as a PDF. And when you open a PDF file in Photoshop, it'll come in transparent. And if it doesn't, what you do is you just select all the white, and then you delete everything, and then this is what you'll have. All right. And in other videos, I will actually do it from scratch, but for now, I have already added it to the Photoshop file. So it should come in something like this. And I will create a new layer, bring it underneath as a background, because it's really hard to see the lines, right? Because it's transparent, but it's actually there. And these are CAD lines, or at least they were from CAD. So I am going to take my new layer and just call that background. And then we're going to just fill that in with a color. Now I like to use a slightly yellow, kind of like it's reminiscent of like a tracing paper, if you will. Maybe it's something here. And Alt backspace. So now you can kind of see the lines more clearly. Obviously these are very technical notes like materials and some dimensions. I kind of like them. They're kind of good texture, so I'm going to just leave them. But it is quite wide, and I'm going to do a real quick image check here. My image is 36 inches wide, so I'm going to make my resolution 300. And then now my image is about 18 inches wide. But really I have to think about where this is going to go. It's probably going to go onto my presentation board, and on my presentation board it might be no bigger than like 7 inches. So at this point I might just click resample image, which keeps my resolution at 300, and then I might take that to 7 inches. And so it just makes it a lot smaller, much more. So 7 by 2 is actually kind of small. Let me go to 10. So 10 inches by 3 inches. This is a pretty decent elevation. It's about 8.5 megabytes, so that's super small. I'll accept it. So here it is. And I'm also going to crop, because I don't really need all of this stuff here. So I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to make sure I have delete crop pixels on. Oops. I'll just bring it in a little tighter. I don't want it too tight because I don't want to like try to center my image. Maybe I'll do that. Cool. Yeah, I can keep the sky there. I really don't need this node here, so I'm going to go back to my original line work there, and get my eraser. And just kind of erase that out. Now I'm kind of set up, and there's a couple of things that I like to do to make this drawing a little bit softer looking. So I'm going to try to keep these videos at a 10-minute clip, so I might go in 2 different parts. What I first like to do is I like to take my original line work and I'll make 2 copies, and you'll see kind of the method to my madness. And I'll just take the first top copy, and I'll go to filter, blur, and I'm going to give it a motion blur. And my motion is going side to side, so I'm going to kind of enlarge the distance. You can see that it's making a wide line there, and I'm going to accept that. So it's going to probably hurt your eye when I start doing this. So here's if I get rid of my other 2, it just basically took all my lines and kind of shook it left and right. So I'm going to turn that off for a second, turn on the other one here, And now I'm going to shake this up and down, if you will. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur, and then this time I'm going to go 90 degrees. And I'm going to shake it same amount of pixels. Now this number may be different depending on how large your image size is, so you'll have to kind of see it on the screen for you to determine how much. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm mimicking like the old school drafting where, you know, before, back in the days when they used to draft, they used to overshoot the corners a little bit. So if I turn this on, you see how now I get these little overshooting crosses. So I have line copy 1 and 2, and they're both blurred. I'm going to now combine both of these layers together because I don't need two separate layers. So I'm going to right click and then go to merge down. So now my blur is all in one layer. So I'll just call this motion blur. And now is where I'm going to dirty it up a little bit, because right now it's just too clean. It moved up and down and left and right in a perfect kind of, you know, value. So I'm going to take an eraser and let's just now experiment a little bit with the different types of brushes. So I'm going to take maybe a dry media brush. These are kind of like default brushes. And let's take a look at it here. I don't know. Let's just take something like that. Oops. And I'll take a brush and we'll get one of these. Just get anything random. It's okay. You guys should actually explore and try different ones. So I'll take that and I'll use that to kind of, you know, randomly erase parts of the, just to kind of muck it up. And so I'm not really paying a whole lot of attention to, you know, what I'm really erasing. I'm just trying to make it as kind of organic feeling as possible. But like all of this middle stuff, I really don't need to be too blurred, so I'm going to probably take out most of it, like all of this. But I will pay attention to here and try to maintain my corners, basically, right? So, because ultimately that's what I'm trying to do, is just kind of mimic drafting of this cornering overlap. And actually I don't need any of that. And then I have my brush at 100%, so every time I click it's dropping down at full erasing, although it's only erasing part of it because of the brush style I have. Make it smaller here. And you know, clearly when you guys take more time doing this, you know, every time you do this it's going to come out a little bit different, which I find to be pretty nice. So I'm going to pause and muck it up and I'll be back. Alright guys, I'm back and I am almost done. I'm just kind of erasing a pretty significant part of all of this line work because it's going to look kind of crazy. And all these notes that got jiggled up and down. Alright, so yeah, I mucked it up a little bit. I think it looks okay. Let me take some of this off too. So I know it looks crazy at the moment, but now if I turn on my line layer, you can see that it has this kind of subtle, maybe a hand-drawn quality to them. I'm also going to take out more of these blur here, now that I can see it with the other text. Okay, so now immediately, here, let me take off some of these guys too. It's a little bit too much. So I hope you guys can see that now it doesn't look so clean. Let me see. So this is coming straight out of AutoCAD. It's very sharp and very mechanical. And then now it kind of looks semi-hand drawn, right? You know, I'm going to get rid of this because that shouldn't be there. So I'm going to go to my original line tool there. Get a regular brush. just understand, what you guys are erasing, which layer you guys are erasing. That's going to be key. All right, so I'm pretty much set up, and I will see you in the next video.